right, everybody. I want to welcome you out this evening. We are live and direct, and we are recording another episode of Affirmationish. And this is a part of Real Ass Affirmations podcast, where we allow our people, our fans, our followers, our loyal real ass peoples to be able to jump in and tell their story in relation to how they come across real ass affirmations, what they like about it, and how they use affirmations in their daily life. Now, this is something that I love to do because it gives our people the opportunity to be able to come on live and to be able to chat with us. And so tonight, I am so happy because I went to the Black Pod Festival and I met so many great people there. And our guest this evening, Rickeya Ware, was one of those guests. And she shared with me some great, amazing things. So I wanted to invite her on to Affirmationish because she's been listening to the podcast since that event. And so welcome out this evening. How are you? Come on out.
Hey, how are you?
I am great. Only thing is I have like a little bit of a cough, but I'll try not to cough while we're on here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you can make it out. So just FYI, everybody, we had to do a rescheduled date and then we're here tonight. And so you guys will get to listen to this soon on Real Ass Affirmations. But just, tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, man. So like you said, my name's Rickeya. I go by Rickey Z as my podcasting name. I am a mom of two. I'm a special education teacher. And I started my own podcast management business about a year and a half ago.
And that's amazing. So what made you even get into podcasting in the first place?
It was by chance, actually. A friend from college, he started his own digital media business a few years back, and he had his own little video podcast called Talk It Out. And so he had me on for an episode. And then the group that was on, we were talking about some really niche topics. Like we call ourselves geeks. So we would geek out about different stuff. And so it kind of ended up being a spinoff. And then from there, I just kind of started helping him with different things like editing and advertising. And I was like, I love this stuff. I love doing the managing and the producing part. So that's kind of how I got into it.
I love that. Now, with that, you don't just have one podcast, you have multiple podcasts. Which one would you say is your favorite and why?
Ooh, man. Okay. That's hard.
You have to throw anybody under the bus.
Oh, that's hard. Mainly, I can't. Oh, gosh. Right now, my baby is one that I just started a couple weeks ago. It's called Black Girls HyperFocus. Mainly because it's intended for me to be very personal. So, my co-host Tara and I, we are both Black women who were diagnosed with ADHD in our 30s. So we were taking this time to reflect on understanding what that means for us now as adults and as mothers, as Black women, and getting some research as to why a lot of us are being diagnosed later in life.
Wow. And I mean, that's something that I know we talked about in person. And I was hoping you were going to mention that one because I think that, that to me is a direct tie into Real Ass Affirmations. When you say it's your baby and, it's more personal, that's what Real Ass Affirmations is to me too. It's something that came from a personal experience that allowed me to make the decision that I wanted to share this with others. And so then it allows me to be able to put all of my effort and my energy into creating something that I feel passionate about. And even though I have another podcast that's really talking about business, which is the one for Give It to the People, it doesn't give me the same feeling that Real Ass Affirmations does. And so even though I'm sure all the other podcasts are great, there's a feeling that's different because when you're expressing yourself genuinely, And especially with something that's so important to you and so, close to the heart as understanding and having ADHD, that is something that I think that is so many people that need to hear about that don't necessarily know about it. They may now be able to get help because of your story.
Absolutely. And part of what got me what I used to get diagnosed was being a special education teacher. I worked with elementary school kids, and so I would see some of the characteristics that I struggle with in my students, and so that's part of what got me into like looking to be diagnosed, or at least going to my primary care physician to be assessed. And it was kind of like a burden was lifted off of my shoulders once I got the confirmation. All the things that kind of give me anxiety or dysregulate my mood, how I handle situations, it all made sense. Why I struggle to get motivated to do certain things, why procrastination tends to be second nature. It was like a burden. It all makes sense. My brain, it works differently. And so that was just kind of a relief, surprisingly.
Wow. I mean, I think that it's something that's brave too. Like I'm listening to it and, I know people joke around all the time, right? And but they don't realize that they really may have ADHD. Right. And I think when you were a certain age, they just wrote it off as you're hyper, right? Like, they need to just sit down somewhere. But when it comes to being an adult, you start to see where things, kind of lead. And I think that one of the things that's interesting to me that might be, and I don't know if there's any research on it, but I think that when we are so multi-interested, right? So I like to call it a multi-hyphenate. But when we're so interested in so many things, that might be the reason that we are. So like I'm a Gemini. So I'll just kind of write a lot of stuff off to both of my sides of me. I had a very businessy side, and then I have a super creative, she just wants to do everything side.
Right.
Right. And then I say, like, it's my husband can sit down and not stop doing whatever it is that he is doing until he finishes. And he only wants to do the thing there. Me, I'm thinking about doing 10 different things and my mind is racing, but I still get everything done, right? Like if I know I have a time frame, I'm going to get it done. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to sit there and do one thing straight out.
Oh yeah. That's me. That's
right?
me. Yes.
So, it's kind of like you get so much done. And then what I started doing, and I don't know if you do this, but I started writing down. So it's kind of like my receipts in my calendar, what I actually did that day. Because sometimes I think you're going so fast and you're doing so much that you might not feel like you got things accomplished. But then when you think about it and you sit and you say, oh my God, I did so many things. It's like, I really did do so much, but it just may not look like it to other people. And sometimes it doesn't feel like it to you. So I don't know if that's like a trait of ADHD, but I'm just telling you that being multi-interested and a multi-hyphenate in what you do, I think that could be something that we might attribute to ADHD. And I don't know if there's any research on that, but if there is, then I'd definitely be a candidate to possibly be that is in that realm.
There's a thing with that. So like the part of the reason why I picked the name like HyperFocus is because like I could be really into something for so long. Now, whether or not that hyperfocus will last long, that's a different story. That depends. But like I dabble into everything. So like I'm a Virgo, and so that stereotype of Virgos of being like organized, usually like a type A personality. It's very weird to think of that and then to like have ADHD. But that Virgo personality, those Virgo like characteristics come out at different times. Not for myself, but when I'm working with other people. So yes. So like if I were to so when I'm helping someone launch a podcast or kind of organize their thoughts for a show, like I can help them like rein it in and organize their thoughts. Myself, I struggle with that.
See, that's what I was going to say. So it's like it's very easy for you to do things for and with other people, but if it's just you, it can become a struggle. But do you think that that is, your mind just because you're so creative, it doesn't allow you to like step back sometimes? Like that's just kind of if you can big picture it. Like I always say, if I could just duplicate myself for real, and let the other part of me do one thing and I do the other thing, oh my God, the productivity would be amazing. It would be like beyond, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just like you said, like my mind is always racing. And so when I do things by myself, it's harder to focus. It because while I'm working on one thing, I'm totally thinking about another thing that I need to finish. And so what you said earlier about like reflecting on what you've done for the day, it's really hard to think about all the things that are racing through your head and to feel like you got anything done. It's hard to think about the little things you were able to complete.
But I think that that's the strength, right? So when we're doing real ass affirmation, I'm saying weird. It's really only me. So when I'm doing, I gotta think about that. On real ass affirmations, I really think of the things that I've heard bother people, or I think of the things that people struggle with, and then I turn them into affirmations. So now that you've had the chance to listen to real ass affirmations, and maybe had some experience with some of the episodes, what do you think is like maybe your favorite affirmation that you heard, or what did you glean from it in relation to how it can help you with your life?
So one of the ones that I really enjoyed was, and something that I've been working on for a while, is boundaries. And then and the thought of when we think of boundaries, we think of boundaries as something that you try to put on other people, when boundaries are things you set for yourself. And
Yes.
and I've had to really work my way around that to be like, these are the things that I'm okay with for myself, and these are things that I'm going to have to let it go.
Yes. And I mean that's a real true thing, right? So I think that, even in just this conversation that we're having, it sounds like we're both in the same boat when it comes to control. And control is the best word that I think can be used because it's easier for us to control what we do with and for other people. But then for ourselves, trying to apply that same thing, we know best practices, and sometimes we don't necessarily do that as much as we should for ourselves. I think that that does say something about the mind of a creative. It could say something about women in general, but I think that when you self, then you can actually start to make the right changes in order for you to be more productive.
Absolutely. And I think that something that I struggle with the control is the when you're helping other people, like you're giving so much of your energy to help other people, and then when you try to do things for yourself, there's a lot of energy to try to exert a lot of control, and so you kind of burn yourself out a bit.
Do you ever find that you feel like you'll do it later, right? And I think that when it comes to this and me just talking about affirmations in general, I am super on personal responsibility,
hmm
which means, yep, I could surely do it later. I could, but if I get it done now, oh my God, I won't have to worry about it.
Right. That takes a lot of effort to train my brain to not only think that but to follow through.
Yeah. And that's where I think we need to be. So when we do these affirmations, the whole point of them is to say something that is going to help us be better as individuals. And I think that when we recognize where we fall short or where we just know that there could be improvement, the affirmations are there to help kind of pull us out of whatever negative thoughts we may be having. And so I started this week, I already had videos galore, right? And this is just an example. I will create content, honey, and sit on it. So the videos that I've been putting out this week on Real Ass Affirmations, those things were done a year ago. And I said, you know what? It's time to create more content. And then I thought, if you don't go into the arsenal and go look at some of the stuff that you already had, and I forgot I even did some of those, right? And
hmm
ones that people are loving. So I would say to us that we have a amazing ability as long as we continue to affirm ourselves. And so if you were going to talk to yourself in, let's just say, let's not even get crazy, a week from now, after this conversation is done and over and everybody gets to hear it and everything, what in a week from now would you like to improve in yourself using your own affirmations?
Ooh, let's see. A week from now, I guess, man, I would say that I would like to improve being confident in my abilities to do what I enjoy doing, because I enjoy it. And I think it's also hard for me to accept compliments and acknowledge that I'm doing something well. So I want to be able to say I did this well, and I know I did, and I did my best.
Okay, so I'm just going to tell you, you just gave me an affirmation to put together. I love that. And that's why I think it's so important for us to do Affirmationish, because the conversations that we have spark something in me that then makes me feel like, from what you said, I can create something. Because when I think about the fact of what people deal and struggle with, what you just said is one of those milestones, right? You get to where you still want to be confident, that you can achieve it, but then it's like, oh, I'm not sure. You know what I'm saying? And so being able to keep telling yourself that, I think that's an important factor that people just miss. And that's why affirmations are so important to me, because you keep telling yourself that you can do it. And I hope that wasn't like a crazy question, but I just feel like sometimes people want you to think about what you're going to do in a year from now and 5 years from now. And all of that sounds great, but can we get to the next day? Can we get to the next And see, the thing that I just want you to just take into consideration, and it's a lot of people that I know that listen to the podcast that are teachers too, right? You have a finite amount of time to not have to deal with however many other people's children. So in this finite amount of time, imagine if you focus how much wonderful stuff that you can do, right? And so I know you know this with podcasting, but if you batch your content, how many interviews could you get done because you now have so much free time, right? So just thinking about structuring your life and your day where, you're on vacation, but when school starts back, that time is now sucked away, and you could still be in promotion mode if you take the time this summer to do those things and create the content that can come out in the fall or that can come out next year. So, I want people to really think that there is a possibility for them to create what they want and to make things easier for themselves. So do you think that you could take that challenge up over the summer?
Definitely. And that's actually what my plan was this summer, was to focus on creating systems for myself that will make things smoother for me to do, not only during the day, but during the school year. So I can set reasonable expectations for myself.
Love it. Yes. You see, we just wrapped it up, girl, in a couple of minutes. But I mean, it's a wonderful thing because, and I'm just going to tell you this, I'm so used to teaching people. So it's a natural thing for me to do that. Right. And to just look at what people are doing and say, okay, well, yeah, you're doing it this way, but it could be a slightly better way. If you already have it done, or if you even think about it like this, what time do you go to school, or what time do you get up typically? You get up at 5:30, and then what time are you done with school?
3:30.
Okay, so 5:30 to 3:30. That is a lot of hours that you do not have to. And I don't know what you got to do with your kids and stuff, but you don't have to be at school right now, right? So if you just took 1 hour out of each one of those days, and I mean, just consider how long your episodes are or whatever, but just to put toward that time, what could it be? And I think the thing is, with a lot of us entrepreneurs too, once you have that freedom of choosing your own schedule, it's easy to choose to not do something. And it's harder to discipline yourself to say,
Right.
well, look, I'm used to being up at 5:30 and not getting off till 3:30. But if I take 4 hours out of my day and I go ahead and I do this podcast and I get my stuff done, then all I got to do is promote it later on, because then it's done. And then when school gets back in, I am on promotion mode, as opposed to, having to try to do so much and chuck everything in there. So I think that that's an important thing for us to look at: scheduling, how we treat ourselves, and how we actually allocate our time. So what do you want people
Absolutely.
to know? Anything about like how you use affirmations in your life, or anything that you just want people to know in general about them being more confident in their lives?
I want people to know that we all go through phases of imposter syndrome. I think that was one of your stories on Instagram today. Was
Yep.
having the feeling of imposter syndrome, and I go through that at least once a week, where I'm just like, I'm unsure, but you have to be able to find something to remind you that you are capable. You're capable, and not only that you're capable, you're good at what you do. And there's a reason you're doing this, and it's a passion, and so it's something to keep you going.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because when you say, well, I manage people's podcasts, that's a different level. That's not just, I just do my own podcast. You are now allowing other people to give you their vision and you to help them create what they want to see in the world. Right. When you tell me, listen, girl, this is my 4th podcast. Like, it's people that can't get to one. Right. It's people that want a podcast and it's something that's holding them back. So wherever level you're at, I think is an important thing. And I know we compare ourselves to each other, but I think if people didn't compare themselves so much to each other and just themselves, it would be easier.
Absolutely.
And that's where I'm like, listen, I know for a fact that I would love to podcast full time. And not to say that I don't want to help anybody else, but if this could be the thing and I can get paid to be me and just talk to people that are beautiful and wonderful like you, that's what I would love to do every day. But that means that it's dedication and time that it takes to get there, to get to that point. And we just have to put in the effort and we have to put in the work. So I appreciate you for putting in the work. I appreciate you for sharing, your life with other people, and tell them where they can find you online.
Ooh. So you can find me on Instagram at Rickey Z Rickey Z social. So RICKEYZ _social. You can find me on TikTok at Rickey Z, and on Facebook as well.
All right. Well, I love that. I appreciate you for being on today. And everybody, guess what? You need to just follow Rickey Z and just get into it, because I was definitely on the page today. I was definitely looking, and I wanted you to know, I absolutely love the name. So when I saw HyperFocused, I was like, that is such an awesome play on words that so happy to see that, but then to see the content and to see what went with it. So I just thought it was really great. That's just my personal take on it. And I love some good ass words. So when you put it together and in the context that you mean it in, I just thought that was really clever. And I really want you to know that I appreciated that for sure.
Thank you. It's been a joy to do that and to feel open enough to talk about things that have affected me in my life, especially as an adult.
Yeah. And we'll definitely be sharing that. And so I'm just going to tell you, one of the things I love to do as we wrap up is to prophesy for people. I personally, if you take it where I'm telling you to take it, girl, I personally see you being an advocate and getting paid to be you in relation to having ADHD and being able to explain that it does happen to adults, what they need to do about it. I see the advocacy, and I also see you getting paid for the advocacy. So I'm just going to put that in the atmosphere. I don't know who needs to hear this, but
I receive it.
Because she wants them coins. And she definitely has a message that's out there. So I want to thank you again for coming on. And as always, for when we end things, I like to tell people, make sure you always show up and show out. Continue to give it to the people. And that's on Real Ass Affirmations. Have a great night. Have a great day. Have a great whatever whenever you're listening to this episode. Thanks, everybody.